Well, each week on Fanalysis, we take the analytics made popular in fantasy football and combine that with betting trends. The result is the sharpest edge for the NFL games. So let's get into the wild card weekend games with Jared Smith of SportsGrid. This is a fun weekend because there's so much riding on these games, and the lines are so sharp in this one.
Yeah, razor thin.
Razor thin lines. And in fact, that's what I want to kick things off with here. The Texans and the Bills. Houston. 2.5-point favorite. The over-under in this one is 43.5. Does the return of J.J. Watt give you a little bit more confidence that this is going to be a defensive game?
It certainly can be. I also like the fact that Will Fuller is back for Houston. So maybe Houston's offense, and you know how dynamic DeAndre Hopkins can be. You throw Will Fuller back into the mix. It does add another element to this Texans offense. Defensively, the Texans have struggled a little bit this year. I think actually the Bills are the better defensive unit. They're one of the best units in the league, scoring defense. So it'll be interesting to kind of see the chess matches early. But one thing to keep in mind, quarterbacks playing their first playoff game, Josh Allen, they don't tend to do well against the number. I think it was like 13-32 or so. I didn't get the exact number, but it's somewhere in the 20 or 30% range for the first time quarterback playing in his first playoff game. That's something to keep an eye on. But obviously, this Texans offense with Deshaun Watson, that's the unit that certainly could open this game up if things get a little hairy for that Bills defense.
Is there also some sort of an analytic for a team coming off a loss to the Jets? Does that play a role at all, at least in the over-under?
Oh, man, I was a little surprised.
Sting him a little?
It could. I was a little surprised Josh Allen even played last week.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to send a guy out there for, I think, 2 series and then pull him. It kind of messes with the mojo a little bit. But the Bills have been such a good against the spread team this year. I think I want to say they're a top 5 percentage-wise ATS team.
You think points are going to be scored?
I do. And actually, the one number that I like is there at the bottom. Over is 11-6 in indoor games in the wild card round since 2003. And again, this game's being played on that fast turf in Houston. I actually do think the return of Will Fuller opens up this offense. I don't think J.J. Watt has much of an impact on this game as people think. We know he's going to play, but a defensive end can kind of be an interesting isolation piece for a good offensive line. The Bills have a very good offensive line, and I do think Josh Allen running the football is going to be a big factor in this game as well.
So the line itself hasn't moved past that field goal marker. Are you seeing value in the line?
I'm really not. When I was looking at all 4 of these games, this was the one. This would be in the toss-up section in our normal Fanalysis segment.
Thank you for using our vernacular.
Of course, absolutely. So it just didn't really ring any bells with me, the spread in this one. I would lean towards the over just because of that over trend in wild card games, but tread lightly on this game. I don't think it's the best game of the weekend.
Other Saturday game, the Patriots hosting the Titans, giving Tennessee 5.5 points here. Another low total at 44.5. But the over has hit in 9 of the Titans' last 10 games. Does it sound like the trend's going to continue?
I do like the over in this game, but the weather, we're taping this on a Friday. The weather can be a little, we don't know what's going to happen this weekend. We got to check with the CBS meteorologists on Sunday what the weather's going to be like in Foxborough. So if it's really windy, the over's not a play. Rain doesn't have as much effect on the over as people think. And actually, if it's raining and the total gets driven down close to game time, there could be a little more value on the over there. So certainly keep that in mind. I do think the Patriots are going to take away what the Titans do best, and that's Derrick Henry. They're going to make Ryan Tannehill beat him. And Ryan Tannehill has not played well in Foxborough throughout his career. I think the Patriots win this game. The 6 and 5.5, kind of in that range, I think is probably about right. I wouldn't want to lay that with New England, but I do think they win this game. And if the weather is not a factor, I think New England's going to be pulling out all the stops offensively. Everyone's writing off the Patriots. I think we're going to see some of those throwback passes with Julian Edelman, some kind of crazy trick plays. I think the Patriots get a little healthy in this game offensively.
I'm curious, though, about this Patriots defense because when they started the season, midway through the season, they were right there at the 85 Bears level of dominance. But the last half of the season, they've really fallen off. They dropped 3 of the last 5. They let Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Miami Dolphins drive down and keep them away from a bye week. So do you really have that much faith while the Patriots defense is 5th best rush defense in the NFL? The trend right now is that the Patriots defense is starting to trend downward.
I mean, I would be concerned. As a Patriots fan, you have to be concerned. I don't think there's anything that you've seen over the last few weeks with how the big games have gone against Baltimore, against Houston, against Kansas City. All the teams that you might be facing in the playoffs haven't fared well against those teams. But again, this is the Patriots. This is now January. And I know it sounds crazy. Everyone's writing them off, and I'm hesitant to write them off. I want to see it in the playoffs.
Fans love when they get written off.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Because it happens so rarely. And truth be told, this could be Tom Brady's final game in New England. Will that have an impact at least on the line, do you think?
I do think we'll get it close to 6 by game time. I think you're going to see some Patriots money come in. We saw the initial buyback off of 5.5. It got to 4.5, and then it has kind of been drifting back as the week has gone on. I do think the public money will come in on New England this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a 5.5 or a 6 close to game time. I wouldn't be laying that with New England, but I am not counting out the Patriots. I do think they advance to the next round. Everybody wants that Kansas City-New England rematch. I do think we're going to get it. Defensively, though, if they can shut down Derrick Henry and they can make this all about Ryan Tannehill, that would be the key for the Patriots.
Because the public seems to hate the Patriots so much, you tend to lay your money on where your heart is. Do you think that that's going to affect more or less how the public is going to be viewing this
100%.
game?
The public is going to be on New England this weekend. I think we saw the initial sharp money come in on the Titans. That's why it moved from 5.5 to 4.5, and then we've seen that drift throughout the week. And usually, because this is a Saturday night game, if the public wins in that Saturday afternoon game, you'll start to see more of that money come in on the Patriots come around 6, 7, 8 o'clock right before kickoff. I would not be surprised to see a 6 close to game time.
All right, let's talk about Sunday. Sunday, Minnesota's in New Orleans. The Saints are 7.5-point favorites in this game. They have been bounced out of the last 2 playoffs in crushing fashion. Do you think that could raise their level of play?
This is my favorite play of the weekend. And a lot of people are on the Vikings. I have a lot of friends that, they're dog players and they love to play those big spreads in the playoffs. This spread does not scare me at all. I do think New Orleans has been playing the best offensive football of anyone the last few weeks. They have been hanging some big-time numbers on people. And this Saints rushing defense against the Vikings rushing offense is going to be the key matchup. We know Dalvin Cook is coming back. We know Kirk Cousins has struggled in the big moment. I think Minnesota is going to lean on that running game early, and I think New Orleans has the tools to stop it. So then you put the ball in the hands of Drew Brees, and we've seen what the Saints offense has done over the last few weeks. This could get out of hand, and that Minnesota miracle, that is definitely, they have to remember that. Because as bad as the New Orleans LA game was last year with the pass interference, that was on the refs.
Right.
The Minnesota miracle was on the Saints defense and that crazy play.
That's what I'm saying is that you'd have to think that the Saints are going to do everything they can to put themselves in a position where that could not happen again.
100%. I also think Drew Brees is a little fresh for this game. He missed a lot of time early. He's not getting any younger. So to have him 5 games fresher than he normally would at this stage in the season, and again, it's Kirk Cousins versus Drew Brees. I mean, that's really the decision here. And Kirk Cousins has thrown a pick in almost every game the last half of the season. He started out, and then we saw the peak, and then it's been a slow decline since. We've seen him twice in the prime time. And I know this game's at 1 o'clock, but let's be real. It's a prime time game. It's a standalone game. And we've seen him in that spot against Seattle. We've seen him against Green Bay come up short both times. I just don't trust Kirk Cousins.
Everybody talks about how we could be seeing Tom Brady playing in his final games with the New England Patriots, but Drew Brees, as you said, isn't getting any younger either.
No.
His window of opportunity to win another Super Bowl is really starting to narrow.
I think this is, and they were very close to getting that #1 seed. If Detroit would have beaten Green Bay and they had that lead, and then Seattle would have gotten that 1 extra inch against San Francisco, the entire NFC playoffs would have ran through New Orleans. A little bit unfortunate that they didn't get the 1 seed. Now they're going to have to go on the road and face Green Bay next week if they win. Then they might have to go on the road again and face San Francisco. That's the rematch we want. We remember that New Orleans-San Francisco game in the Dome a few weeks ago. How great would that be, round 2 in San Francisco on Championship Sunday? I do think we're trending that way. I really like New Orleans to make a run, and if they can get past the Niners, I think they're a Super Bowl contender. I think if the Saints really put the pedal down this weekend, they can really all of a sudden open up this NFC playoff race. I don't trust Green Bay in the following week. I like New Orleans a little bit.
They have skilled play. They have elite players at a number of positions: receiver, running back, quarterback, defensively, middle linebacker.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
And their defense is better than people think. They give the credit to the offense. This is a really good unit defensively. They don't get the advantage of home field next week against Green Bay. They get it this week against Minnesota. I think Kirk Cousins falters and the Saints win big.
They are an opportunistic defense, to say the least. It is not often you see a home dog in the postseason.
Very rare.
But the Eagles right now are getting a 1.5 hosting Seattle. Does that half-point line movement, which, by the way, it did move by a half point, does that tell you anything about this week?
I mean, it tells me that the Sharps liked Seattle, but it also doesn't really give me a whole lot of glimpse into where this line is going to move close to game time because the action's been very much split. Seattle is getting more of the bets, but the money is a little bit more even. So I do think the public is going to bet Seattle. I think we're going to see some sharp money if this gets to 2 or 2.5 buy back on the Eagles. I don't think it's going to get to 3. But I'm telling you, I'm a little worried about Seattle's injuries. They've got some big-time players, especially on the defensive end. Jadeveon Clowney. They've also got the linebacker Michael Kendricks out. So I'm a little worried about Seattle's defense. We've seen that they've given up some big plays over the last few weeks. Everyone's counting out the Eagles, and every time a team gets counted out, that's when I like to take a hard look at them. I think Philly at home plus 1.5 is an interesting play. I really do. I mean, I think the Eagles have a little bit of momentum. They love that dog mentality. Sure. That's their MO. Is Philly, tough-nosed city. When they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, that was the underdogs the whole way through.
It was the us against the world
exactly.
kind of mentality.
They wore the dog masks. So the dog masks are going to be out at the link this weekend. I think Russell Wilson, obviously, you don't want the ball in his hands on the last drive, but they've won a lot of close games this year. They one of the lowest point differentials in the league for an above 500 team. They're 10-2 in one-score games. That's a luck factor. So I wouldn't be surprised if the ball bounced against them this weekend, just the way the ball's been bouncing for them early in the year. Eagles, tough to fade them at home when they're getting points in the playoffs.
You know, we don't talk about it much during the regular season, but teasers are a big play in the postseason as well. Buying back points. Explain this to some of the audience there and how you would play it this weekend on the Sunday game.
This is the best. This weekend and next weekend is the best 2 weekends for teasers in the entire NFL season because of the windows of the game. So you've got, let's take Sunday, for example. You've got the Saints game early. You've got a 7.5 point spread. You can tease that 6 points down and get that at Saints minus 1.5. Let's say the Saints win the game by 3. So then you've got a winner there. Then you've got to tease the second game. I would go Eagles, move that from plus 1.5 to plus 7.5. Not only do you have you're getting the number through 3 and through 7, which adds a ton of value to a regular minus 120 teaser. But then you've also got a little bit of window of time where the Saints game ends and the Eagles game begins, where you could buy back on Seattle. And then you can hold an Eagles plus 7.5 ticket and a Seattle minus 1.5 ticket, and you hope for a close game. So because of the way that the games are structured, the prime time nature of them where they're standalone games, it offers a great opportunity for teasers. And in the NFL, you know, every point is valuable.
You know, this isn't like college football where, you know, you're teasing 1 point and it doesn't matter.
And the games
that much.
fly all over the place.
Of course, you've got a 40-point difference.
Yeah, LSU scores 60, the teaser is meaningless.
We're talking about a massive movement in a game where there was a half-point line movement at 1.5. So clearly, 1 extra point or even an extra 5 points is massive when you're talking about teasers.
Yeah, think about it this way. The total for the game's 45.5 in Philly. If you're moving at 6 points, that's over 10% of the line right there.
Right.
So you're getting that much value, and you're only paying 10 cents a juice. Now, granted, you've got to hit both games. You've got to hit the Saints game. You've got to hit minus 1.5, and then you've got to roll that into the Eagles game.
But you've got to feel pretty good about where you're sitting with those 2 tickets.
I think if you're going to tease this weekend, Sunday's a great day for it because you get the Saints, you move it through 7, you move it through 3. Basically, they just have to win the game. And then you push the Eagles up above 3, above 7, and all they have to do is keep it close against a Seattle team that, let's be real, they haven't really excelled in that blowout spot. They played a lot of close games this year. 12 out of their 16 games have been decided by 1 score or less. So I really think this is the perfect teaser weekend, and Sunday's a great tease day as well.
All right. Well, I tell you what, that is a look at the wild card weekend. It is going to be wild. It's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining for everybody. Keeping an eye on all the line movement, by the way, on sportsline.com. For Jared Smith of SportsGrid, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.